Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a very interesting show for you this time. We're going to talk about Mizzou. They have caught a break. They actually got a law changed that will help them with NIL. And Missouri has really had a tough time holding on to their athletes out of the state. And actually, Missouri has some pretty good athletes, usually every year, out of St. Louis and places like that. And they haven't been able to hold on to very many of them. They've been in the doldrums ever since Josh Heupel left, who was the offensive coordinator for Missouri. And I couldn't figure out why Missouri was so good. But the years that he was there as offensive coordinator, they were actually winning their side of the conference. And I just didn't put two and two together that Heupel was the key to that. Well, now that he went to UCF and now to the Vols, they have struggled and been in the doldrums. And they just had a law changed that will make it easier for them to cut NIL deals and possibly help them keep some of their athletes, which is no good for us, but we're going to cover it anyway. And this article by Matt Stahl out of the Columbia Daily Tribune says, how could a Missouri NIL law change impact MU athletics? And it actually has passed. It's not been signed by the governor yet, but the state legislature took action. The state House and Senate passed an amendment to their House Bill 417, and it would give leeway during the recruiting process to both schools and players and try to protect institutions from punishment from the NCAA and other organizations. The bill passed through big time. It was 113 to 41. And there they are talking. He's saying, don't you worry. I'm going to get this law changed for you, and it's all going to be fine. Look at old Eli. He loves hearing that crap. It says high school athletes in the state of Missouri would be allowed to take NIL deals as long as they've signed a national letter of intent with a public institution in the state. They will also be allowed to discuss NIL opportunities with coaches while being recruited. That's something that you couldn't do. If you'll remember, it all had to be done by the collective. And they talked about how that was one of the big problems with Florida and the Jaden Rashada fiasco, that the coaches weren't allowed to be involved in the NIL discussions. And, of course, the collective had promised Jaden all this money. They didn't come through with it. It made the Florida football team and head coach Billy Napier look like crap. That whole contract just got blown up. And you folks remember, I found that contract for you, and there it is right there. The IOU $13 million and with the official Florida logo. But they said because it was on Charmin that it didn't really count and it wasn't any good. So they did learn a valuable lesson. But had the coaches been there, they could have told them, say, look, you need to use 8.5 by 11 letterhead. And we'll give you some Florida letterhead for this deal instead of the Charmin paper, because that's technically not a document. And I think that's how they got out of the deal. But anyway, that won't be an issue anymore in the state of Missouri, and it goes a little further. The new law would make it illegal for the NCAA or conferences to punish schools for discussing future NIL possibilities with recruits. So they just gave the NCAA and the SEC conference the Heisman. Stay back. You can't do anything to these guys. You cannot punish them. We are the state of Missouri. You ain't crap. Players could also be allowed to use school logos in their NIL activities so long as it does not conflict with any deal with the university. And the NIL deal terms collected by the university would be protected by the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. It would also make the terms of the NIL deal contracts a closed record and not publicly accessible. So they can't even find out about it. And if they did, they'd be breaking the law. So there you go. It goes further. It says the amendment allows coaches and other school employees to help athletes negotiate the NIL deals. So they'll not only be privy to it, but they'll be helping them negotiate it. It says by removing a section of the previous law governing NIL deals that prohibited that. So they'll actually be on the player's side, almost like a representative. And it also, the NIL deals cannot be impacted by the athletic performance. So if they play like crap, it doesn't matter. They don't even start, it doesn't matter. They still got to get their money. It says after the governor signs the bill, Missouri will become a state with one of the loosest NIL laws in the country. Coaches for the Tigers will legally be allowed to discuss NIL deals for recruits during the process, bringing certain conversations above the table. The bill will also help Coach Eli Drinkwitz in his stated quest to keep the best Missouri football talent in state. And remember, they lost the number one edge player in the state of Missouri last year to us, Chandavian Bradley. They're about to lose Winery, who's either going to go to the Vols or Oklahoma, it would appear. They've also got Ryan Wingo, a five-star wide receiver who is not even looking at Missouri. So that's what they're sick and tired of. They're losing high 4 stars and 5 stars to other teams that they have to play against, which is, not fun, I'm sure. And then it says here they could even sign earlier. Said the basketball team could sign in November and football prospects in December. So that helps them get the players to sign earlier. It says coaches can also try and make sure their players are getting the best deal by sitting in on negotiations. Having more professionals at their side during that process could become another recruiting advantage. The coach becomes the player's agent in a way. Said Eli Drinkwitz was, I'm sure he was happy, called it a game changer, showing his presence in the chamber. It's a big day in Jeff City. So they're all fired up about it, and that makes perfect sense. Now they can actually sit in on that. That's a huge advantage for them, and it'll mean what you'll have is a domino effect. You'll have this state do it, that state do it, that state will do it, and they'll just all domino down. Tennessee will pass that law at some point. You can count on it. As soon as they lose a player or two that they thought they were going to get, there'll be a law passed.
Logical.
So all the states will eventually do it, and that's just, you got to keep up with the Joneses. Missouri's tired of losing all their talent, and they've done something about it. So there you go. So anyway, I thought this would be interesting to cover because it's definitely going to impact a lot of teams. And Missouri, look, Eli Drinkwitz knows if he doesn't start winning, he'll get fired. So getting this deal passed at least gives him a fighting chance. We'll see. Missouri's not a real hot team right now. There's not a lot of high-end players that want to go there. Maybe this will help them. We'll see. But I expect all the other states to pass it too. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover the Vols and all the other teams. And I like this kind of stuff where it gets into the weeds. I've always enjoyed that. And if you haven't subscribed, it's right here on your right, my left. Just hit that little button. Boom, that's all you got to do. Takes you 1 second. Easy as pie. And right over here is my most recent video. YouTube thinks you'll love that. That's how the algorithm works. I don't understand it. Anyway, I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.